Well, there's certainly with the coming of the Trump administration, it's rattled Europe's security and their feeling of security. They've got a war in their backyard, and they're really concerned about what the alliance means. I was at the Munich Security Conference just a week ago or 2 weeks ago now, where this was the theme that really overtook the conference. It was everybody was talking about it. But in my experience, they weren't panicking as much as everybody was saying. A lot of the sentiment was, we have to invest in our defense and intelligence. We haven't invested enough over the last several decades. We've relied on the United States, and now is the time to step it up and to do so incrementally. And that's the view of the NATO Secretary General as well. So I do think it makes sense for the UK to come to the United States. We have a very close alliance. They have been there for us with Iraq, with Afghanistan, with series of security issues and wars and conflict. And so I do think it makes sense for him to get to go in there. I'm not so sure what he expects will come out of it, unfortunately, because I just don't think the administration negotiates in a way where they're giving things away without getting something back in return.
Well, we were just hearing President Trump asked about whether or not he thinks the deal would be kept if there would be a problem with security. As Keir Starmer is saying, a peace deal, if there is to be one, needs to last. President Trump, Hagar, says he's known Vladimir Putin a long time and doesn't believe he will violate his word. Do you believe that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely believe not only that will Putin violate his word, and he'll do so happily and has proven to do so multiple times over the last several decades, but over the last 20 years. But it's also the fact that a negotiated settlement, and I'm not trying to seem like I'm a warmonger. I don't want war to last longer than it needs. But if you have a negotiated settlement where Putin comes out with more than he should get, and nothing that prevents him from invading again, then it just gives him time to resupply his army, to rebuild his troops and his weapons and his stockpile, and to pick himself up and go after, and maybe to invade Ukraine again, but it could be Georgia or Moldova. And the thing is, the proof is in the pudding. Putin has pursued this type of aggression since 2008, when he first went into Georgia. And we know that if it's not outright aggression, that his tentacles are reaching into these countries in Moldova, Slovakia, all these other countries, Hungary, where he's trying to push a pro-Russian movement and control these countries, perhaps without even needing to invade them. And so any kind of deal that is shaped needs to include, if not some kind of promise of NATO membership, then some kind of provision that triggers NATO membership if Ukraine is invaded, if these other countries are invaded. Now, I know that's complicated. You can't guarantee that for sure. What does invasion mean? Are you going to have a NATO membership that will in fact approve it in the instance that it's needed? But there needs to be something there in place. And I do know, because I've been speaking to the White House, I do know that there are advisors advising Trump to do that. So we'll just have to see how it turns out.
I want to ask you about specifically security guarantees, or what this White House sees as something just as good, Hagar. We've heard this back and forth a couple of times now, that with a minerals deal, there'll be U.S. officials there following up on the elements of that deal. That an inherent security guarantee will come because U.S. investment is there. This was brought up a short time ago in the Oval Office. Donald Trump said the backstop will be Americans working in Ukraine to implement a rare earths deal. With your experience on the National Security Council, is that a realistic view?
And I feel with Bloomberg and with Bloomberg's viewers, would any of those viewers accept a deal that isn't written in a contract? So the answer is no, that's not secure enough. Yes, of course, if you have U.S. presence and you have U.S. companies, does it mean that would it help? Sure, perhaps, but it's no guarantee. And you have that anywhere around the world could land in a conflict and the U.S. has to leave. When Russia was first annexed Crimea in 2014, I was at the Treasury Department at the time, and we had a lot of American companies tell us that they did not want to leave Russia. Now, the conflict wasn't there, but they didn't want to leave. They didn't want to leave their energy investments or drilling in the lurch, and we told them they had no choice. So that's never a guarantee. If you have American presence abroad or American companies, that doesn't de facto mean that they protect territory. It just, maybe there's an incentive for the U.S. to ensure that they're protected, but it doesn't mean anything unless it's written in stone. And I think that when it comes to President Zelenskyy, and I'm watching him be a very adept leader, he is trying to work with Trump. He's the one who came up with the minerals deal to begin with back in October with his victory plan. Now, he may have not expected that Trump would ask for $500 billion worth of minerals, or that it might not come with security arrangements. But he knows he has no choice but to work with Trump. Trump controls the purse strings, but he's also not going to levy a tax on his people for generations to come without something in return. And Europe is there, so they're going to do that. But we have to remember that Trump is a maximalist negotiator. He pushes out the maximalist scenario that he can try and get because he knows he's going to get something less. And again, not my style of negotiating. However, I hope, and I know hope is not a policy, I would hope that there's something there. We don't know all the terms yet, but I believe that there will be something there that will be enforced in a negotiated settlement that should prevent Putin from invading again. I hope that is the case. I would hope that the Trump administration knows that it would only be emboldening Russia if it doesn't include that kind of provision.